Tonight, before bed, you'll squeeze mint-flavored gel onto a nylon-bristled stick, scrub your teeth for 2 minutes, and spit into a sink connected to a sewer system you never think about. Nobody in human history did that until about 100 years ago. Zero toothpaste tubes. Zero dentists with drills. Zero fluoride. For over 300,000 years, humans walked around with teeth that were, by modern standards, completely unmaintained. No dental checkups every 6 months. No mouthwash. No floss picks sitting in a drawer. So how did they not all die with mouths full of rotten stumps? The answer says less about ancient hygiene than it does about ancient diet. In some ways, Stone Age teeth put ours to shame, and the story of how that changed is stranger and grosser than most people realize. Skeletal remains from before farming show something surprising. Pre-agricultural humans had shockingly good teeth. Cavities were rare, not because they were brushing, but because of what they weren't eating. Hunter-gatherer diets were built around meat, fish, roots, nuts, and wild plants, naturally low in sugar and starch. Cavities are caused by bacteria feeding on sugar and producing acid that eats through enamel. No steady sugar supply, no bacterial feast, no decay. Their teeth also got a workout, tearing tough meat, cracking nuts, grinding fibrous plants, which kept jaws strong and teeth naturally worn into alignment. Anthropologists studying these remains have even noted straighter teeth overall than most modern populations, since the constant grinding action shaped the jaw as it grew. They didn't ignore their mouths completely either. Analysis of ancient dental tartar has turned up grooves worn into teeth from repeated use of thin sticks or grass stems, essentially prehistoric floss, some of it over 100,000 years old, found in Neanderthal remains as well as early Homo sapiens. They weren't chasing a nice smile. They were stopping food from rotting between their teeth and causing pain. Same result, different motive. For most of human history, the plan wasn't cleaning. The plan was not eating the thing that causes the problem. Plop. Then, around 10,000 years ago, humans invented agriculture and quietly declared war on their own teeth. Diets shifted towards starchy, carbohydrate-heavy foods, wheat, barley, and eventually sugar. Skeletal records from populations that switched to farming show a dramatic jump in cavities and tooth loss almost immediately, sometimes doubling or tripling within just a few generations. The same shift that let human civilization explode in population also filled everyone's mouths with bacteria that had never had it this good. Starch breaks down into sugar the moment it hits saliva, which meant even healthy grain-based meals were feeding the exact bacteria that hunter-gatherers had mostly starved out. This is roughly the same window in history when we start seeing the first tools built specifically to clean teeth. Agriculture didn't just build cities, it built cavities, and cavities built the first toothbrush. Around 3,500 to 3000 BC, in Babylon and Mesopotamia, people started chewing on frayed twigs, usually from aromatic trees, until one end split into soft fibers, then scrubbed their teeth with it. Ancient Egyptian tombs have preserved these chew sticks, meaning clean teeth mattered enough to bury alongside the dead. The most famous version is the miswak, a twig from the Salvadora persica tree, and it's not a museum piece. People in parts of the Middle East and Africa still use it today. Modern lab studies have found it contains natural antibacterial compounds and even trace fluoride. Somewhere around 7,000 years ago, without knowing anything about bacteria, someone in Mesopotamia accidentally invented a fluoride toothbrush out of a stick. The Egyptians took it further, mixing early tooth powders from crushed pumice, ground eggshells, ox hooves, and myrrh, toothpaste, thousands of years before the word existed. Ancient Greek physicians, including Hippocrates, recommended chewing mastic resin to freshen breath and clean the mouth after meals. The Romans did something similar with crushed oyster shells and charcoal, sometimes flavored with crushed bone or powdered horn to make the abrasive gentler on enamel. They were, loosely, brushing, just not the way you picture it. Here's where ancient dental care gets genuinely bizarre. For thousands of years, across Sumer, ancient China, Rome, and medieval Europe, people believed cavities were caused by tiny worms living inside the tooth, gnawing at it from within. The idea shows up in Sumerian texts from around 5000 BC and Chinese inscriptions from 1500 BC, and stuck around as the accepted explanation for tooth pain all the way into the 1600s. Roman remedies for toothaches, recorded by the writer Pliny the Elder, included burnt earthworm ash, mouse ash mixed with honey, and snake skin boiled in oil. One treatment involved burning seeds on hot coals near the mouth, then rinsing with warm water. Small worm-like debris would appear in the rinse, which physicians took as proof the worm theory was correct. It wasn't. But try telling that to a Roman with a raging toothache. You've probably also heard Romans brushed their teeth with urine. Historians are actually split on it. Urine does contain ammonia, a real cleaning agent, and some Roman writers reference the practice, often to mock it as something foreigners did. Whether it was common or just a rumor, we can't say for certain. Either way, it tells you people were desperate. By the Middle Ages, things hadn't improved. Dentistry was mostly handled by barbers. The same person cutting your hair might pull your tooth with iron forceps, no anesthesia included, sometimes in the middle of a public square as a kind of grim advertisement for their services. One popular whitening method involved scrubbing enamel with nitric acid, which worked briefly, right before dissolving the enamel entirely. If the pain got bad enough, some healers simply recommended prayer, since a toothache was widely believed to be a punishment worth confessing over. So if none of this was real dental care, what finally fixed it? Sugar, or more specifically, the industrial explosion of it. As sugar became cheap and widely available in the 1600s and 1700s, cavities exploded across entire populations, including, famously, European royalty, whose blackened teeth became almost a status symbol, since it meant you could afford enough sugar to ruin them. Some accounts describe wealthy Europeans deliberately staining their teeth to fake that same look of sugary excess if their own teeth hadn't decayed enough on their own. The worse everyone's teeth got, the more urgent real dental tools became. The bristle toothbrush first appeared in China during the Tang dynasty, using hog bristles set into bone handles. It took 1,000 years for the idea to reach Europe, where early versions were considered a luxury item only the wealthy could afford. Mass-produced toothbrushes didn't show up until the 1780s, and nylon bristles, the ones in your bathroom right now, weren't invented until the 1930s. Fluoride toothpaste, actually responsible for the drop in cavities across the 20th century, is barely older than your grandparents, only becoming widely available in the 1950s. The biggest difference between your teeth and almost every human who ever lived isn't the toothbrush. It's that you have tools to fight what your diet throws at your teeth every day, something no one in history had to deal with until very recently. So next time you're at the sink at 11 p.m., half asleep, scrubbing away, remember what you're actually doing. You're not performing some timeless ritual your ancestors also did. You're running damage control on a problem that's only existed for a few hundred years, against bacteria that a stick, a rock, and a low-sugar diet used to handle just fine. Ancient humans didn't need to brush their teeth because they weren't eating the thing that made brushing necessary. Their diet was, without them ever intending it, the best dental plan anyone's ever had. We didn't out-clean our ancestors. We just built the diet that finally caught up with us and then had to invent an entire industry just to keep pace with it.